Welcome to It's a Parent, a podcast about parents, solo edition. Today, I want to talk about nature versus nurture. Do you know about this theory? It's a theory that a person's traits or behaviors are determined mostly by nature or by environmental factors. And apparently, scientists don't even think it's a thing anymore. They say that both play factors, one affecting the other, and vice versa. I was Google searching it just to see what people are saying about it. And there was a study done with rats that showed that the mothers that hugged and groomed their kids, the babies tended to be less anxious than the babies who didn't get as much attention from their mothers. Yeah, duh. And then there's a footnote at the end. It says the dad mouse stayed in his man cage listening to all his Modest Mouse records. Weird. So then, yeah, I was thinking about what to talk about this week, and I thought I was going to be so smart being like, nature versus nurture. There's a lot of gray. I think we have certain traits that we're programmed with, but I think how you grow up brings those qualities out or dampens it. And I want to be a parent that creates a nurturing environment. I thought that was going to be so smart sounding. But I mean, scientists are only confirming what we all know, right? It's like this idea of nature versus nurture, it's way too simple. I also thought I was a bit pessimistic because I want to think that we all have a capacity to change, right? It takes a lot of effort from both parties. The person needs a little amount of empathy, I think, and somewhat of a willingness to change, be open to the idea. And then everyone else around them needs to be patient, even for years. Like for me, I've been a jerk to people in my life. And they've thankfully given me chances over and over again because they are patient and gracious. And I also want to give myself some credit for having some empathy and also a willingness to listen and learn. I remember in second grade, this is a very pivotal memory. I did an impression of a classmate named Nicolette. She had a stutter, and I was doing this impression of her stutter, and everyone was laughing while I kept going. But I could see her getting more and more upset, but I didn't stop because everyone was laughing so hard. And of course, she started crying. She had those tears that come from anger and embarrassment and hurt streaming down her face. It just breaks your heart as a parent now, looking back. And I didn't get it though. I was like, what? It's the truth. That's what you sound like. I'm just doing what you sound like. What's the big deal? Such a stupid boy. And I just kept thinking I was just doing an impression. But my teacher, Mrs. Flynn, pulled Nicolette and me aside after class. She said something like, just because something is truthful doesn't make it any less hurtful. When people are self-conscious about something, they think about it all the time. For you to make fun of her for it, it makes her feel worse about herself. That put a new perspective in my mind. And I apologize because, I didn't want to see her hurt. So I thank you, Mrs. Flynn and Nicolette, for that lesson. And then also this other thing that my friend Christina has reminded me a lot of. In middle school, I point out very specific things about her. Like, we're still friends now. And recently she reminded me of how bogus stuff I'd say, like, did you wear that t-shirt last week? And then I'd walk away. In my case, I think it's because I was a dry cleaner kid and I was very observant of people's outfits all the time and how much they cleaned them anyway, because my parents would clean my clothes constantly. And I'd only wear, I think, things once a week. But then specifically for Christine, I'd pick on her all the time. I mean, at one point I called her a hunchback because she hunched just a little bit. I mean, she was taller than the rest of the kids and she was probably hunching down, self-conscious about her height. That's just a theory. And she hunched a little. I called her Quasimodo. In 8th grade, when every teenage girl has a totally healthy relationship with their self-image. June, you idiot. She reacted. I kept looking for the reaction. I was a B- bully. Just awful. Every time Christine brings up any story from middle school, I'm so embarrassed by how ridiculous I was. But again, thank you, Christine, for still being my friend. I think a turning point was in high school. I made friends with this kid named Danny Setagursi. He was a kid that really liked comedy, and he laughed at what I did and said I was a funny person. And I just totally believed him because he didn't think anything was funny. And then for him to say, June, you're a funny guy, it like turned my whole life around. So then there's this other point where in high school, I did impressions of my teacher, Mr. Melendez. He had like a Elmer Fudd thing going, whereas ours would be W's. So it'd be like, when you're at a traffic light and it turns red, you gotta stop right where you are. Very Staten Island. And all my classmates and friends, they loved it. They freaking ate it up. And then I realized, oh, doing impressions is funny, but I don't have to hurt anyone's feelings to do them. The key is to make fun with people instead of making fun of them. And that was a big turning point. But life has a funny way of giving you a taste of your own medicine, right? Like karma right there. I have this joke about Heather, my wife, that she's my biggest bully. She's so bogus sometimes. Sometimes my voice would crack and she'd go, oh, what was that, dolphin boy? Or she'd say things that she thinks are compliments, but they're not. She'd be like, babe, I just love how much you're not a manly man. And I know myself well enough that she's not lying, and I can't help but laugh. If I dish it, I got to know how to take it. That's a life lesson. By nature, I am observant, right? And I have said some truthful but very bogus things. And thankfully, my friends, my environment, they've taken my natural tendency and helped me realize that I could put that towards joy and being helpful. And I've somehow made that into a professional decision to be a comedian and writer. So I use my observation skills to tell jokes and stories, hopefully funny stories about myself and others, right? I love getting into people's psyches. I love figuring out why they do the things they do. And it's sort of pop psychology, sure, but it's why I started the podcast too. Because the essence of this podcast, right, is about nature and nurture. We have half our parents' genes, brains, everything. The question is, can we flourish the wonderful, beautiful traits they've given us and push out the less than savory parts? Because the point of the podcast is about nature and nurture. We have half our parents' genes, brains, everything. The question is, can we flourish the wonderful, beautiful traits they've given us and push out the less than savory parts, or figure out some coping mechanisms because we've done that. We've analyzed ourselves. Anywho, next week, my guest will be comedian Angel Yao. Until then, it's apparent you're doing great. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. It's Apparent Podcast is produced and edited by June Chung. The show logo was designed by Shabazzle, and the theme song was produced by Ish D.